A little while back, I asked on my social media for people to send in their original Animal Crossing villager ideas, and I'm going to take a couple of them and try to make them into real villagers in the game. I'm going to do my best to translate the idea from the 2D drawing onto an actual 3D model, so it'll be interesting to see how close we're able to get the concept to look to an actual villager. So let's go ahead and check out the first one. This is by Hyundoos over on Twitter, and they made a younger sister for Stitches named Stickers. Right off the bat, I really love the concept. I'm a big fan of the villagers that kind of play off of each other like Chrissy and Francine, or even like Nan and Chevra. It can be tough to make a villager that's sort of based off of a different villager, but still be unique in its own way, but I think this one really does hit the mark really well. This character definitely feels inspired by Stitches, but it doesn't feel like a straight up copy. Like, it's got very similar looks in terms of like the big line down the middle of its face, but I think that this character could stand up on its own, not even related to Stitches in any way. Playing off of that, I think that they made a very interesting choice with the eyes. I think it would have been very simple just to do the normal Stitches like X eyes, but instead they went with a more space-themed eye look, which I definitely would have never thought of for a villager like this, but it works very well. It gives off that sort of pastel kind of spacey vibe, which I really like. I'm going to have to see how close I can get the colors in game. I'm not sure if this artist's art style was just very pastel-like and the main idea of the villager maybe wasn't this muted in colors and everything like that, but I'm going to try to get as close as I can to the concept art and go based off of what the original kind of vision was. Obviously, the stickers are sort of the main concept of the villager, and I really like that as a companion piece to Stitches, where it is something very childlike. You know, children play with stuffed bears, and they also have a lot of stickers, you know, stickers that are strawberries and hearts and things like that, so it really works in that sense. I think if this was a real villager, you could make the stickers items that would let you in on a little bit more of the personality of the villager, so have something that sort of tells a story and gives you a little bit more insight into who the character actually is. Having a character with stickers stuck to its face gives a really good excuse to tell stories. Like, for example, one of them could be peeling off or even ripped in half, and that can kind of indicate that it's been on there for a long time. I just think there's so much that you could do with the concept, and it's just a really fun and unique concept. So here it is in game. I think the main difference would be the head shape. In the game, the head sort of tapers off to be smaller up at the top, whereas in the concept art, it actually gets a little bit bigger in the concept art. But overall, I think it's fairly close, and I think it does look really good. I actually prefer the in-game model not to have the bow, just because I think the colors clash a bit too much with the muted colors of the villager. If we had something that was the same color and fit the same way as the concept art, I think that would work really well. But overall, I mean, this is a really great design and honestly is something that I could see being in the game. Next up is one that I wanted to do because I felt like it was going to be a challenge and I wanted to see how we could translate it to 3D. This is by Rolled Best over on Twitter, and it is Doodle, who is a cat that is based on drawing on a piece of loose leaf paper. The issue, of course, is that this is a character whose whole concept is based around the fact that it would be a 2D drawing, something on a flat piece of paper, so how do you translate that into 3D? I've actually done something fairly similar to this a long time ago where I put Rosie from the Animal Crossing movie in the game, and for that I used a mod by CatCraze777, which puts an outline around a villager, so I thought that that would work really well to give that sort of 2D look in a 3D space. The other issue that I was worried about were the blue lines for the lined paper. Obviously on a 3D model, depending on where you're looking, some lines can look warped because they're going around something rounded. By the end of it, I think it did end up looking fine. The lines didn't necessarily look straight, but I think you could still pretty much tell what it was. If you wanted to go further with it, I'm sure you could put that little pink line that goes vertically on there, though I'm not really sure where you would put that because it might look weird just on the left side, but that may be something to sell out a little bit more with the loose leaf design. While I was drawing all the black parts, like all the facial features and everything like that, I wanted to keep it very loose because obviously it is supposed to be a drawing, so it's not going to look like that synthetic perfect circle or anything like that. I use the pencil tool as opposed to the paintbrush tool because the pencil tool makes lines a little bit more jagged, whereas the paintbrush tool makes things look a little bit more smoothed out and just a little bit nicer to look at. When you're doing something that's supposed to look like it was drawn by hand, you don't want something that looks super smoothed out, at least, you know, with the concept of a doodle where it's just a quick sketch as opposed to something really refined. In-game, this thing looks super cool. The outline obviously helps this thing stand out a ton, and it works in the idea that there's a black outline around the character. I'm not really sure if this was intentional in the original design or not, but I really like that the blue lines sort of act like stripes, you know, cats that have stripes. I'm not sure if that was what was intended for it, but that's kind of the read that I get, that it's a striped cat, but the stripes are those blue lines of the loose leaf paper. Obviously, this is something that I don't think Nintendo would ever do, but it would be really cool to see something that's unique like this in the next game. Next up is by Aloe Crossing over on Twitter, and it is a concept for a peppy koala named Martha. This concept makes things very easy for me because, to be honest with you, I kind of thought that this was just a screenshot from the game when I first saw it. The thing that sticks out immediately to me with this villager is the eyes. I had wanted to do something pretty similar to this whenever I made my original deer villager in the Villager Lab series, with multiple whites in the eyes, but it ended up looking really weird, and I figured that it kind of couldn't be done, but on this I think it really works well. This very easily could have fallen into the trap of looking like the villager was crying, you know, kind of similar to Dom, but I think instead of looking sad, it looks more cute than anything else. The choice of using this very undersaturated pink I think works really, really well. It would have been really easy to go with a super bright pink because there are no pink koalas, so this one would stand out, but I think the more muted colors really work in this favor. One thing I noticed while I was kind of zooming in and looking at the character was that the eyes were not fully black. They sort of gradient out into a brownish color and then obviously gradient onto the eyelashes in that pink color. I'm not really sure how well I'm going to be able to have that show up on the villager, but I'm going to try my best to add that in. She reminds me a little bit of Huggy, who is a cut villager. I think it's because of the smile, but she doesn't look exactly like her. I'm not really sure why I think that this looks like her. I also see a little bit of Melba. Really, it's a combination of a lot of the different koala villagers, but something that still does look very unique. Here she is in-game. I'm surprised that I was able to get the hair looking right. I was having a lot of trouble making it look 3D and have the different angles of light bounce off of it, but in the end it was able to work out. If you told me this was an actual villager that was in the game that I had just never seen before, I'd probably believe it just because it does look so close to something that Nintendo would do with the various gradients but still not going too over the top with anything. It really works out well, I think. Nintendo, I'm just saying, you know, if we all got permission here, I can send you guys the files, just put it in the next game, make it happen. And our final villager for today is by Aching Achilles over on Instagram, and it is an octopus villager based off of a jellyfish. This concept stood out to me a ton whenever I first saw it. I've had ideas for jellyfish villagers before, but all the ideas have been sort of similar to Splatoon jellyfish, where they're just kind of blue and have tentacles. This is such a more unique and interesting take on a jellyfish type villager. So instead of having the head be the head and then the arms be the arms, do jellyfish have arms? Is that what they're called? Tentacles, that's what they're called. I definitely did not just Google search jellyfish arms to get that answer. But I really love that parts of the model are water as opposed to having the whole villager be just the animal. You're seeing various parts of the animal and the environment that it's interacting with in a way. But even past that, I think the execution of the way the villager looks is really good. Obviously, blue and orange are complementary colors, so that looks really good. And even if you don't know that it's supposed to be a jellyfish, I think it still just looks like a unique villager. And then once you know that it's a jellyfish, it becomes a little bit more readable in that way, but it's not unreadable if you don't know what it is. Probably my favorite small detail of design has to be the eyes, which are in the shape of a wave. That's just something super cool that you may not notice just looking at it, but once you get in closer and you really start looking at what the villager looks like, you say, oh, okay, wait, that's waves because it's a jellyfish. It's little attention to detail things like that that I really love in a concept. Here it is in game. I also added in the jellyfish shirt just because I thought that was a neat little touch, and I wanted to try to get as close as I could to the picture of the concept art. I think up at the top of the head, I probably could have gone down with some of those darker colors just because at some angles, villager looks a little bit like it's balding a little bit. But overall, man, I mean, this is such a cool concept and it looks really nice as a villager in the game. So here they are all together. I really love the way that they all look. They're all super cute, really fun concepts, really great ideas all around. If you did send one in and I didn't get to it, I do apologize. I would have loved to have gotten to everybody's, but obviously these take a long time to make, and I wasn't going to be able to do every single one of them in one video. This video would have never come out, basically. But if you did send something in, thank you, I do appreciate it. I love seeing everybody's different concepts for villagers and things like that. Obviously, I've got a whole series on my channel where I make original villagers, but it's cool to see from different perspectives the things that people are able to come up with for all that. If you guys enjoyed this video, you may also like the Villager Lab series where I add in a new villager to every species. We're not all the way into it yet, but we've got a couple of them out, so maybe go check that out if you want to see a little bit more in terms of coming up with a concept and finalizing a design, things like that. I'll have a link to that at the end of the video. Speaking of the end of the video, this is it. So thank you guys for watching. I appreciate it, and I will see you in the next one.